Welcome back to Saving the Republic with Joe Staten, presented by Grab Your Gear Network, where we speak to people who get up and work hard every single day. Trades workers, merit shop workers, people who actually do something with their hands and are productive. This show and this network is for you. But with that being said, it's also for anybody who's interested in following current events and hearing about news stories that the mainstream news cycle is probably not talking about. So that's what we do here at Saving the Republic. If you enjoy that, if you like that type of content, make sure you subscribe to the network down below at GYG Network. Grab Your Gear on Instagram and TikTok and check out all of our other types of content. With all that being said, let's get into today's news. So, another day of big news in this 2024 election. And the first story that I want to start with today, when I saw the story, it just made me furious, and it should make you furious too. The former presidential running candidate for the Democrat Party in 2016, also the wife of Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, decided the day after the assassination attempt on President Trump, the second attempt, which apparently is just normal happenstance. It's just par for the course to have assassination attempts happen every couple weeks. I guess that's the world we're living in these days. But she proceeded to go on to a news network and spew some pretty crazy talking points. So let's check out what Mrs. Clinton had to say.
I also think there are Americans boosting Trump back in 2016, but I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence because then boosting Trump back.
So she wants to talk about propaganda. She wants you, an American citizen, and many others, to be civilly and sometimes criminally charged if you, quote, disseminate Russian disinformation. Now, let's go ahead and take a jog back in history real quick. Let's jog our memories just a few short years back in the past when in 2020 we had the Hunter Biden laptop story that was proven to be true, but at the time when it broke was said to be Russian disinformation, affirmed by that story, that narrative, that propaganda was affirmed by over 50 intelligence officials who put their name on that and said, yeah, this is disinformation. Well, guess what? If Hillary Clinton had her way, you would have been put in jail potentially if you would have shared that very true story just because the intelligence agencies, so we call them, decided to say it's disinformation. Well, guess what? I have a message for you, Mrs. Hillary. We live in America where we can speak our minds, where we can speak whatever we want to speak. We can speak the truth. We can speak a lie. We can speak what you think is disinformation. You can speak what you think is disinformation. It's part of the beauty of living in the United States of America is that we can say whatever we want to say. And if you don't like it, tough luck. There's a lot of other countries where you can move, Hillary, where you don't have the freedom of speech, where you can be put in jail for sharing disinformation. And this is the problem. This is the problem. Okay, anytime we talk about freedom of speech, and every time we talk about disinformation and misinformation, this is a big domino that has to fall in order for these totalitarian types like Clinton, these late stage republic, bizarre, power hungry, liberty hating people. This is what they need to do, is to try to trample on your right to speech and your right to say whatever you want to say. Because the second they take away your ability to do so, they can shut down everything. They can do whatever they want with no consequence. They can lock down the country because of a supposed pandemic and claim that it's so horrible and scary with no evidence. They can force you to get an experimental gene therapy treatment without allowing you to ask questions about it, without allowing you to research the treatment. They can do whatever they want to do, and you can't say anything because guess what? If you say it, it's disinformation. There are very few things in this world that irk me more than these egotistical, inflated types like Clinton, who are on their massive moral high horse, think they have everything figured out, and they want to get on this little TV show and act like you're on a pedestal and talk down to you and say, oh, there was people sharing Russian disinformation. You know who the people who are actually sharing disinformation and propaganda are? It's actually you, Hillary. It's actually MSNBC and these mainstream networks who are basically surrogates of the Democrat Party, and really not even the Democrat Party at this point, the Uniparty, with the likes of Dick Cheney, endorsing Kamala and Mitt Romney, and these people that are not voting for Trump, Mike Pence. And, I saw that the other day. I'm sure many of you saw the fact that Mike Pence, and I don't know if Pence endorsed Kamala, but I know Dick Cheney did, and Liz Cheney, and I saw somebody else did as well, where they're trying to, I think John McCain's son. But I don't think there's a single better endorsement for President Trump than these neocon, principle-less types. They don't stand on anything. If you're a conservative Republican, many of you guys probably know what I'm talking about and agree with this. If you're a conservative Republican and you decide to endorse Harris, I don't care who's running as the Republican, but if you choose to endorse Kamala Harris as a conservative, you're not a conservative. You have no principles. You don't believe in the most basic things. We have a candidate who, as we check Polymarket here, is sitting at a 51% chance to win, 52% actually, who's talking about policies like price controls, who has argued in the past to have taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for prisoners, for illegal immigrants. Not a joke. Go look it up. Who wants to mandate your guns back to her, a buyback, which is not even a buyback. It means you have to give us our guns and we'll give you a little bit of a token as a little surprise, a little prize for you, a little consolation prize. That's what a buyback is. It's not, you don't consent to that. It's horrible. It's tyrannical. That's what it is. And so we have this candidate. We have Kamala Harris running, and we have these Republicans endorsing her. They're not Republicans. They're not conservatives. They have no values. The only value they have is ultimate loyalty to this massively growing state of government. You know what it reminds me of? You know how often the founders warned us about the possibility of government growing to the size that it is now in the United States? How much they warned us about a totalitarian, a tyrannical government who does not have the interests of the people at heart? That's where we stand. We have a uniparty of Democrats and Republicans who are not loyal to the American people. We have a unified state of the CIA, the FBI, the Secret Service, where all these things are coming out, where it's just a magic mistake. We just completely lost all of our marbles. We just made all these magical mistakes to allow somebody to get on the roof 200 yards from the former president. We didn't have anybody on the perimeter of this golf course. Oh, and by the way, he just magically shows up with for over 12 hours when this was a non-public event on Trump's calendar, supposedly a last-minute decision. What's going on here? Do we have a unified state that is enabling, that is monitoring Donald Trump and is trying to kill him? I mean, this is scary stuff. This is very scary stuff. So, man, hold on to your seats and pray for our country. That's what we have to do. And there's really an awakening happening. I know it's kind of cliche to say that, but I just saw Elon Musk tweet about this, about religion. He was tweeting about how atheism is an empty, rabbit hole that gets you nowhere. Religion is very purposeful. It helps set up society and advance civilization. And there really is a great awakening happening among people. Whether you believe in the Christian God or not, does not matter. People are realizing there's more to this life. Morality has a base. there is a foundation to all this. There has to be, you know? So it's encouraging to see that, but we need to pray for our country. Now, in another story today, the Teamsters Union, as you can see here from Cernovich, one of my favorite Twitter accounts to follow, shout out Mike Cernovich, the Washington Post, Teamsters will not endorse for president for the first time since 1996. This is because the Teamsters, actual members who work in the Teamsters, are overwhelmingly in support of Donald Trump. As you can see, 59% to 34% on this electronic poll, and this research phone poll, 58 to 31. So it's not even close. So the Teamsters realize, hey, we're not going to endorse a candidate that the majority of our members do not support, and shows, again, the widening of the Republican Party base. Am I ever going to sit on this network and tell you that it's a good thing that the Republican Party is embracing some union ideas? No, because we all know on Grab Your Gear Network, as many of you guys have seen in the past, that unions are nothing short of a money hole that donate a lot of their income and a lot of their proceeds, not to workers' rights, but to activism, to extreme leftist ideologies and activities, including the Hamas protests, including extreme abortion bans, or extreme abortion policies. These are the kinds of ideas, extreme illegal immigration policies. These are the kinds of ideas that unions have given money to recently. And so it's not a great thing, but you know what is a good thing, though, is that the people who work in these unions are still common sense people. They still are traditional Americans. They work hard like a lot of you do, like I say I do. And I think I do. I don't want to sound prideful, but I think I work pretty hard. But anyways, that's besides the point. The union voters are voting Republican because they have common sense. Another break for Trump, and another huge break for Trump. Check this out right here. We have Pennsylvania mail-in ballot requests data. 50 days before the 2020 election, Democrats held a 725,000 vote lead over Republicans. Now that lead is down to 477,000 votes. So it's a net loss of almost 300,000 votes by Democrats so far from mail-in ballots, and they won the state by only 80,000 votes in 2020. So does that mean that Trump is going to win the state? No. But does that mean that it's going to be a lot closer? Probably so. And I would also go out on a limb and predict that we're probably going to have less turnout this election than we had in 2020. As hard as that might be to believe, 2020 was like a perfect storm. It was like this perfect environment to have like the absolute maximum voter turnout. Nobody was working. Very little people were actually working. People were at home on social media. Every single social media company, every account, if you guys remember this, I remember going on Instagram, Twitter, everywhere, Facebook. The first thing you see, are you registered to vote? This is how you register to vote. And these initiatives were oftentimes backed by Democrat super PACs, right? So we're pushing this vote so hard in 2020, and everybody was seeing it right in front of their face. And so I think we're going to have a drop in voter turnout. I think that helps Trump. And I've seen Pennsylvania odds. If we take a look here at Polymarket again, the Pennsylvania odds are currently at 52 to 48 for Harris. But I've followed Nate Silver very closely on Twitter, the Democrat pollster. Maybe not by name he would say that, but we all know he's left-leaning, but a pretty common sense guy. But anyways, his data in Pennsylvania has showed very good numbers for Donald Trump. And we all know that Trump always outperforms, not always, but most times outperforms his poll numbers. So we're gearing up to see a very close election, but these are some very encouraging numbers for Trump coming out of Pennsylvania, the mail-in ballot applications that were submitted, a huge shrinking in the lead for Democrats. And, just to wrap up this point and also wrap up this somewhat brief show back, it's not like the Democrats are a population that, would say, okay, well, I'm not going to register to vote by mail this year. I'm going to actually go in person because COVID is over with. I don't think Republicans usually have a better turnout on the ground in person at the polls. So, I think great news for Donald Trump. This election has been crazy. Donald Trump had a rally today in New York with over 60,000 attendees. Go check that out if you have not seen the reporting on that. But again, I say it every time, but it's just because it's true. Hold on to your seats. We have, I think, 48 days to go, 47 days from the most consequential election in American history. I think this election will decide the prospect of a potential third world war, sadly. The very nature of our country itself is at stake. So if you guys have not registered to vote, make sure you go register to vote. We put out a video on our network telling you exactly how to do so. Go check that out. We also have a really cool story coming out soon right here from Springfield, Ohio with Jack Windsor, investigative reporter. I had him on the show last time around. A great guy. Go check that out. Be ready to watch that. It's going to be very, very cool. And shout out Isabella on that as well. So good job, Isabella. I already know you're going to do a great job. But with that being said, if you guys made it to this point in the show, thank you very much for dedicating 15 or so minutes of your time today to Saving the Republic. Again, we cover current events that are not reported on as much in the mainstream media cycle, but nonetheless are very important stories to be aware of. So if you guys like that type of content, again, make sure you subscribe to the network at GYG Network. Like the video, leave us your thoughts down below, and I will see you in the next show. Have a good night.